Okay, so why does this matter? Understanding you and your partner's fight languages can help you de-escalate conflicts, improve emotional safety, and create more productive resolutions.
These are grounded and rooted in research. So anyone that's heard of the Gottman Labs, the Gottman research, like Gottman's research has produced, right, what a lot of us now know as the fundamentals of relationships. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast, the one place where we are here to help you reach your full relationship potential. That's new.
I like
That's new. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this podcast and so many others, for spreading personal development, self-improvement, personal growth, and mental health into the world. It is what we believe the world desperately needs because, let's be honest, we need people to learn how to work on themselves harder than they work on anything else.
Right.
That's what we're here to do. Let's work on your relationship together. Sweetheart, what is your intention, my love? Ladies first.
My intention is for our listeners to scroll away, click away, run away, whatever, from this episode, knowing what their fight language is and being able to articulate that to their partner and or learn what their partner's fight language is.
Okay, so you and I had a Relationship Talks virtual event last night, and thank you. Anyone who did come, thank you. Huge shout out to you. And you opened with a vulnerable story that you had never shared before about a fight that you and your ex got into, which I really appreciated because I think that a lot of people at that event felt really seen and heard and appreciated in that. We've all been in a situation in the past where we fell in love with potential. And I opened the event with this. I said, everyone here, please think about an ex-partner. Think about the worst intimate relationship you've ever had. Think about the worst intimate partner you've ever had. What if you stayed with that person? What if you ended up with that person? And then Emilia proceeded by telling that story. And here's the deal. And we said this in the event, and I'm going to say this here on the podcast. I said, after Emilia told the story and everybody kind of sat in that for a bit, I said, listen, this is the Conscious Couples podcast. This is the Relationship Talks event. Can we stop dating losers? And everybody kind of laughed. And a bunch of people came in the chat and said, no more losers. Here's the deal. If you have a partner who is constantly fighting, who is constantly suppressing you, who you have to walk on eggshells around, who you don't feel like you can be your full self with, I wish I could go back in time and say, Alan, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Alan, what are you thinking, man? And so I know I'm not alone in that. And Relationship Talks coaching is probably for you if you feel that way. But again, sweetheart, what was your experience?
So I had shared a story about a relationship that I had, and like many people in the audience, like many people that come to us, whether it be at Evolve Ventures, at Next Level University, or at the Conscious Couples podcast, a lot of people will come to us and they tend to be that type of person that is falling in love with potential and has been conditioned and encouraged to see the best in everyone, which that story really illuminated being in a relationship on and off to some degree or another for 8 years, give or take. It was a shining example of how I had fallen in love with this person's potential and ultimately what he could have been. Now, the key word is could have, because he never was, and he never did become that person that I had seen, quote unquote, inside of him. And what I shared in the Relationship Talks event publicly for the first time in photos and whatnot was a really abusive moment that, like I had shared in the event, it was like the culmination. It was the pinnacle of abuse that I was tolerating in that relationship, which included a hole being punched right next to my head, in my house, my bedroom, my safe space. And so that story essentially, like I shared with people there, gave me the courage after I had looked at Tucker at the time, who was there, our little baby, our Pomeranian Chihuahua, and he was little and shaking at that time. And in me, it was, not necessarily the fact that there was a fist that just went by my head. It was unfortunately me seeing Tucker shaking, terrified at what just happened. And it was that ultimately had me wake up from this delusion, this narrative of that this person's ever going to change. And so when we talk about fight languages, we all have some degree or another guilty, if you will, of falling in love with your partner's potential, and or maybe fighting and creating fights in your relationship, because I know we've all been there where we haven't been our best selves, whether we were dating a loser or we were the loser. We made losing choices, and those losing choices showed up in our communication patterns that wasn't creating winning strategies to have a winning relationship. And so instead of sinking into your love languages, what your conditioning told you to do and what you would do in those moments again and again in your intimate relationships was have you fighting. And so to bridge that gap, today, like I said, my intention is to help anyone that listens to this podcast not only understand their own fight language and how that's impacting their relationship, not for the better, obviously, because you're fighting, not sinking into vulnerability, humility, courage, and love, but rather fighting to be, whether it's fighting to be right, fighting to get space from your partner, fighting to state the facts, right? There's so many different types of ways you can slice a fight, but it comes down to what type of language are you using and how are you showing up in the relationship? We
had an acronym we use in the event called HALT, HALLT. When you're hungry, angry, lonely, late, or tired, or any combination of it, you need to halt for a second, because that's when the fight languages are coming out. The fight languages is kind of another label for the trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. But ultimately, one thing I want to do before we jump into the fight languages love is I look back at a past relationship and I fell in love with potential as well. And I think about where I'd be now if I didn't get out of that. What are 3 words that would describe where you are now, where you would be now if you never had the courage and the self-worth to leave him?
Suppressed is the first one that came up. Fearful is the second that would come up next. And filled with shame. Shameful. Yeah. Suppressed, fearful, and shame.
In the event, when I regret, disappointment, and shame probably as well. What a coward.
I know.
What a coward. And honestly, I'm not trying to be mean to us or our past self, but we were such cowards. Babe, and I said this at the event, I need to make this clear for all of our listeners or viewers. Listen, I understand that people aren't perfect. I've not been perfect either. And I said this in the event. I said, if you're dating someone who's being a loser, and I use loser loosely, the ironic thing is that if you continue to tolerate that, they're actually never going to change. I've seen this so... Right, say again?
They never have a reason to.
Well, this is the thing that I've noticed so many times. I've been coaching now for 10 years, mentoring for 10, coaching for 8. And I've seen that these people actually don't transform and grow until after you stop tolerating it. And I do think that that person that you were dating wasn't going to change until after you left.
I agree.
And I think that we see that so much now that we need to make that as clear as possible. So if you're out there watching or listening and you have been in a bad relationship, think back to that to make sure that your future is smarter and that you're more discerning, because everyone taught us growing up, well, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge. Listen, if you have rose-colored glasses and you see someone's potential and you don't want to judge anything they do or say, well, you're not going to be very discerning. That's like That's like going to buy a car and being like, well, I don't really have any criteria. I don't have any standards, so I might as well just buy one without tires.
And airbags.
No airbags, no tires, no seatbelts. Screw it. And we opened the event last night with, you did this great slide of the 3 most important decisions you make. And one of them on there was what intimate partner you choose. So I just wanted to make that as clear as possible. Okay, so we're going to get into the fight languages now. So before we leave this episode, we want every listener or viewer to be able to identify theirs and their partners. Okay, the first one is the exploder. The style is raises voice, gets things out immediately, may yell or vent. The need is to release emotions quickly to feel heard. The challenge is that this can intimidate or overwhelm a partner.
AKA, this is what that partner that I had been with, like their fight language was the exploder. Yeah. And I shared a slide in the event. Like I always knew that there was another way of communicating our emotions. And I said, you don't have to like bottle everything up and then just explode. Like there's such a productive way that we can actually talk about things in relationship. But that partner was just incapable of doing that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And maybe he's transformed now because he lost something of value.
Yeah.
A lot of times human beings don't change until after they lose something of value. So if you are of value, it's time to leave, and then maybe your partner will transform then and or re-hoodwink you. I'm kidding. All right, number 2, the silent type or withdrawer. The style is shuts down, goes quiet, avoids confrontation. You've noticed Emilia got a little quieter so far in this episode. Because she's working through some of the stuff from her past. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I opened with the event, that it's been a while since I've got a 70 sleep score. My state is horrible. And it was kind of like drunk Emilia, but like I was not drunk, obviously. But like it was because I had a horrible sleep the night before. There was so much anxiousness built up. And I was reprocessing my past and had to do a lot of inner work in the middle of the night. And that when you look back and you regret your decisions and how you subjected yourself to something that was never going to change, it is really difficult to process. And so, the withdrawer type is my go-to quote unquote fight language because, when you've been in a relationship that is exploding all the time, again, what did I say? Suppressed, fearful, and shameful. That's like exactly what goes through my central nervous system when I think about even just that person. It's like my body goes into this shutdown mode because you feel helpless and hopeless at that time. So if you're noticing that, I just want to name that.
Hi, my name is Jason Blackstock, and this is my wife, Lisa. We got connected with Alan and Emilia a few months ago through friends. We were trying to look for ways to strengthen our relationship.
And right away, we just noticed with Alan and Emilia how they made us feel so calm, and like everything that they did with us was gentle, and it felt so like we could let our guard down right away. And that was something that allowed us to open up and just get closer so quickly. So
yeah, I felt it was very easy to connect with them, and their intuition for our situation was very surprising to me. Both past and present, they just knew us.
Yeah, they picked up on things that we didn't even think they would. They just, even in our mannerisms and the way we would look at each other at certain points in the conversation, it was just really cool to feel like they understood us. And it really gave us all the tools that we needed to work on us when we weren't talking directly to them. So we had like homework to do and things to work on, and it really elevated our relationship in big ways. And I think we're both really excited to keep working with Alan and Emilia because you're never done working on your relationship. And I just feel like that is, if we're good, then the rest of our world is good with our children and our 4 kids. So
yeah, we're very grateful that we met Alan and Emilia and are looking forward to the future.
And if Emilia didn't have the courage and the self-worth to leave him, we never would have met.
Facts.
And this podcast wouldn't even exist. And if I didn't have the courage to leave
your partner,
a certain partner, best decision I ever made. I always joke. Same. I say the best decision I ever made was leaving that person. The second best decision I ever made was DMing Emilia Smith. So I'm very grateful. Go past Alan. Okay. The silent type or withdrawer shuts down, goes quiet, avoids confrontation. The needs is time and space to process emotions and avoid escalation. And the challenges may be perceived as stonewalling or disinterest. So Emilia and I talked openly and honestly on the event last night that I tend to be the next one, the fixer, and she tends to be the withdrawer in our relationship. So again, we want you thinking about your relationship and your partner and yours. Okay, the fixer style tries to resolve the issue right away, even during high emotion, to restore harmony and prevent emotional distance. The challenge is they may invalidate emotions by rushing through conflict. Yeah, absolutely. So there has been times in our relationship where I'm trying to solve it immediately, and Emilia's just trying to express. We call it emoting. Emoting.
I'm in a glass box of emotions.
I'm in a glass box of emoting.
Wrong burgundy quote.
Yeah.
Anchorman.
The lawyer or analyst. You can have a combination of these. If I had to pick, I would be the lawyer fixer. Man, bear pig. Okay. The lawyer or analyst style uses logic, facts, and structure to win the argument. I don't know if I'm trying to win the argument. I do think I'm trying to understand. It needs to be right or understood intellectually. Definitely. Understood. I
don't want to know.
I need to know. Yeah, exactly. And then the challenge is it can come across as cold or dismissive of feelings. Yeah. For sure. And then the last one is the emotional flutter. We're going to put all these in the show notes, by the way.
Which is also referred to as the catastrophizer, because this person, when they go into their fight language, their central nervous system catastrophize the situation, and they just get so emotionally over flooded or emotionally flooded that they just go into what you're about to share.
So the style is overwhelmed by emotion, may cry, panic, or feel unsafe. The need is reassurance, safety, and emotional grounding. And the challenge, they may shut down or escalate unintentionally. Okay, so why does this matter? Understanding you and your partner's fight languages can help you de-escalate conflicts, improve emotional safety, and create more productive resolutions. We have 2 digital assets of all the slides, and I told Emilia, I think these are the best slides you've ever created. You're welcome. Thank you. Of all the slides, there's 2 in particular that one of them are the 5 fight languages and the breakdown of each.
Yes, which is what you'll see and I'll refer to as fight lingo bingo, baby,
yes.
Because we want to bring levity to this. That was really important in last night's event. It's heavy. We are unconsciously not proud of when we get into fights, and we never feel good about fights. It always disconnects us as couples, and we end up feeling some degree of shame. Even if our ego doesn't want to acknowledge it, we feel shame when we're disconnected from people. That's just how it is, especially when it comes to our partner, our person, our penguin. So why I mentioned that is bringing levity towards any aspect of this that we can without taking away the value of it. That's where fight lingo bingo comes in. But I just want to be clear, it's not to like encourage you guys to fight. It's just so that you can circle on this digital asset, what is your fight language?
Pick your greatest fight language and go all in on it. I'm kidding.
In the red corner is, and in the blue corner, the lawyer. Good luck.
Literally, we need to make a show. In the right corner, we have the lawyer analyst.
And the flutter. Good luck.
Emotional flutter. Good luck. Okay, so in all seriousness, though, so this is Fight Lingo Bingo.
Fight Lingo Bingo.
There's 2 assets that are both going to be on one pager.
One PDF. Yep.
Okay, and the first one is going to be all the 5 fight languages and then the breakdown of each to figure out which one is you, which one's your partner. Yep. Again, we all have all 5, but we have one really big go-to, okay? We only want to do one. Make it simple. The next is connection techniques. So each of the 5 fight languages has a specific antidote or solution or connection technique, as we call it.
Right.
And in the event, we basically said, I'm column 4, row 3 is going to be my, and you've sunk my fight language. The asset will be in the show notes. Download it now.
Love it. Okay. So one thing that I want to share is these are grounded and rooted in research. So anyone that's heard of the Gottman Labs, the Gottman research, like Gottman's research has produced, right, what a lot of us now know as the fundamentals of relationships. That plus Gary Chapman's work on the 5 love languages, right? That's some of the foundational scientific evidence that has built upon what we have at the Conscious Couples, the 25 conscious love languages. So the fight languages, the antecedent, the connection techniques, what we did in the Relationship Talks event was make sure you just choose one. which means like when you tend to go to shutting down, flooding, exploding, whatever, do this instead. This is your swap behavior. And so if you didn't go to the Relationship Talks event, how you go about doing that is what we talked about at the event. That's why we make sure that we encourage you to come, because you don't want to miss that. And if you happen to want to learn how to do that in your relationship, that's where Relationship Talks coaching for your unique relationship. Let's say through this episode, you identify that you're the flooder and your partner's the lawyer, and you guys are struggling to continue to find connection through that. That's where RTC comes into so big of handy in a tool that helps you take these and actually apply, okay, what is the go-to connection technique? Don't take all three and try to apply them. What's a tiny baby step that you can apply today?
One example is when Emilia and I are on a walk and we've both had long days, she'll try to express emotions, and then I'll jump into trying to fix it when I'm under pressure. And then that makes her withdraw, which makes me want to fix it more. It's a whole thing.
Cycle.
Yeah, luckily we're walking.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when you realize that you're triggering each other's fight languages, you can shift into these connection techniques really quickly. Mm-hmm. So mine is, there's a PDF for this connection technique, and row 3 is the fixer, and 1 down is pause before apologizing. Ask, what do I actually feel or need? So what I can say from now on is, the reason I'm trying to solve this is because I need reassurance from you, Emilia, that we're going to work on this later, because I don't want this to keep happening, and I would like to make sure our life improves. And I feel like if I actually express what I need in that moment, because ultimately it's all fear-based, deep down she's sharing something emotional about something she's going through that seems to be a pattern that is pretty consistent. And I'm concerned that we're not going to work on that. I always say this: what's the one decision we can make that solves 1,000 future problems? I like to get to the root cause of issues and solve them.
Yeah,
and that can invalidate your emotions.
Not only that, but a lot of it always has to do with something called family, and a lot of us all struggle when it comes to our families, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't. And the thing is, like, not a lot of us are willing to cut out our family, myself included, and I don't think that that's healthy. So there will be times where I'll have an emotional experience as a byproduct of talking to a family member, thinking about a family member, having a memory come up, watching home videos. Like, that's one thing that I know is honestly comical at this point, because of the fact that like everyone has family challenges. And when you have interpersonal dynamics, or you're trying to navigate your life, a lot of stuff does come back down to where you came from. So although it would be nice to remove that root, technically speaking, I am unwilling to do that, because I do love and adore my family, as we all do.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, and again, all this comes from the past, is that I have been with a partner who never wanted to improve anything. And exactly. So I'm concerned that nothing's going to improve if we don't identify the root cause and then solve it. So again, right. Each of us have our own fight languages. We lead by example and we talk about our experience, but we want you thinking about yours. So what's yours? What's your partner's? The PDFs will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. Our next Relationship Talks event, love, it is
going to be on June 18th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic itself is going to be how to determine your relationship's commitment level. I'm excited for that one, a little nervous, but more excited because of the fact that most relationships don't ever really examine the commitment level that they have. And as they journey through different phases of their relationship, commitment levels can either go up or down, right? They never really coast. So you're either going up in commitment level or down. And I don't care if you've been together for 10 years, 5 years, or 5 months. Learning what your commitment level is within the relationship is absolutely critical. So I'm excited for that.
So I said this in the event last night. One of the benefits of being with Emilia is that 24/7, 365, she's working on improving herself. The amount of time and effort that she puts into working on herself and making our relationship better is so high. She's committed to being the best version of herself, and she's committed to being in an extraordinary relationship. And I've been in a relationship in the past where it felt like I was putting in all the time, effort, and money, and the other person wasn't reciprocating, and it felt like we weren't growing, we were stagnating. And I know a lot of people out there feel that way. This event is going to help you to identify your commitment level, your partner's commitment level, not the story they've told themselves, and then how do you start dialing that up and make sure that none of us want to be in a relationship where we're putting in 90% of the time and effort and money, and they're putting in 10%. that doesn't work.
Not
It's going to feel like you're dragging someone up a mountain that they don't want to climb. I've definitely been there as well. Also, relationship talks coaching. If you need more individualized, personalized help, it is tremendous. We're going to help you not only grow together and not apart, we're also going to help you achieve your goals and dreams together. That's all Emilia and I do. We help people achieve and reach their potential and their goals and dreams. Thank you, as always. It's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is alazarus88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.